All right, it's been fun, guys. See you later.
For real. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Borderlands BorderBros Podcast. I am MikeyDubs, your host, and I am joined alongside my brother Steve, aka the JV Wonder Kid, aka the best Zane you ever did see, but only after Revolter came out. Steve, say hi to the people.
I can't believe you're throwing strays out here. I'm out of here. See ya.
And this episode, we're joined from by a special guest. His name is Tall. He stands tall because he is a Borderlands veteran. Tall, say hi to the people.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Okay, very, very
We
cool.
are ready to go.
So, Tall, in episode 1, Steve and I both gave our Borderlands backstories about who we were and our Borderlands journeys. Tell us about you and your adventures in the Borderlands.
So other than the Tales games, I played every mainline Borderlands game at launch. I think including Wonderlands. Yeah, definitely including one. Borderlands 1, I found out about, and I think the first Game Informer article about it, because I was still getting Game Informer back then. Um, Played it at launch, loved it. My claim to fame with Borderlands 1 was I never saw Legendary until I played the next gen re-releases of it. Um, Borderlands 2, I was like so hyped and ready for. Played that at launch. Borderlands the pre-sequel, I actually happened to walk into a GameStop the night of release, like coincidentally, because me and Borderlands are fated together, unfortunately. And bought it that night. I remember they did a midnight drop. I ran right in, got it, ran right home. And then Borderlands 3, we all remember the Borderlands 3 hype. I did the full, Commander Lilith thing. I went in on doing all the shift points and getting a Norfleet through shift points and stuff like that. That was all fun. And now I'm excited to do Borderlands 4. I hope that there's some kind of like hype cycle that they start for this game soon, because I really had a lot of fun doing that for Borderlands 3.
Yeah, I
That's
definitely
my that's
remember
my history with the franchise.
That's really cool history, actually. Like, I never played Borderlands 1 on launch or Borderlands 2 on launch. I think the only game that Steve and I played together on launch was the pre-sequel. And we had a great time with that one. Like, we hit level 50, which was the first original level cap, and started farming our gear, like, in moon big trash compactors. Like, we had a great time with that, but you're definitely more of an OG when it comes to the games than we are.
I mean, it's something that I've stuck with for all these years. I really like the franchise, the humor. I'm a big comic book guy, so always loved the art style. Um, and so I'm going to continue to play whatever future Borderlands games come out. I just, I hope that they're good, and I hope other people think they're good, because I enjoy the art style, and oftentimes I'll enjoy the end game, even if it's not the best, just because it's Borderlands. The concept is something that always resonated with me, right? Like the looter shooter, like grinding for loot, the endless loot cycle. And then I like first person shooters, but I'm not necessarily like an online kind of competitive guy. I always like to play with friends instead. So Borderlands just kind of always lended itself to those two core tenets that always made sense to me, if that makes sense.
Very much so. I think it's interesting because like I used actually Borderlands as a way for me to get away from the multiplayer space. It allowed me to kind of dive in and immerse myself in this world where I kind of dictate the pacing.
Yeah.
And once I've kind of gotten my roots in the game and I've created a build, then I found myself like to introduce my friends into it and kind of as like a guide along of how to play
Oh,
the game.
dude.
I think I've had the most fun doing it that way as well.
Playing Borderlands 2, the amount of times that I played Borderlands 2 and ran people through to like level 20, like I think I was like on in terms of like getting to Sanctuary, like in Borderlands 2 with a person that's never played the game before, like I was doing, I mean, I've never seen what the speed run looks like, but no glitch speed runs just because I had done it so many times. Um, and still managing to let people have fun, you know what I mean? Um, and I have all sorts of different paths that I take through the game whenever I approach certain maps, especially Borderlands 2, not so much Borderlands 3, because the game is so long. It's not like tight and concise. You know, when you see some movies that you're like, that was an hour and a half, that was great. I enjoyed that. I'll watch that movie again. Then there's other movies that are like, this movie was too long for no reason. That's kind of how Borderlands 2 and 3 kind of compare in my head.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far into Borderlands 2 versus 3, but I will say I completely agree with you. Like, every time I go to make a new character in Borderlands 2, I'm excited about the prospects of my adventure and what that character could be. Whenever I think about starting a new Borderlands 3 character, I am dreading basically the entire playthrough until, like, the very end.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But let's not get stuck on this, man.
Let's not, because that's what every Borderlands discussion has been for the last 7 years. All right, so this question is for everyone.
7 years. I gotta emphasis the 7 years. That's the best part about this.
I don't even know if it hasn't been 7 years, but it's been like 4 or 5 years of the same discussion. Anyways, moving on. This question is for everyone. What are your feelings about Borderlands 4 so far? Do you have any theories from the trailer? Tal, we'll start with you.
So from the trailer, I mean, there's a lot of obvious point outs, right? And I think that if you look at the trailer as a whole, you definitely see a lot of things. But I think that there's a lot of implications of changing the setting to Kairos and Elpis, like that. I think not a lot of people are looking into. You know what I mean? Like, I saw something earlier today. I forget whose video it was, but they were talking about weapon manufacturers, for instance, and something that kind of clicked in my head is that, like, how does a planet that has been like gone from the solar system that we kind of know of in Borderlands for so long, like how do they have like the regular slew of weapons manufacturers, right? Like how would they have those stuff? How would they not have completely different weapon manufacturers? Or are the weapons an older style of all these things because they've been separated? I think again, what I'm really most excited for Borderlands 4 is that there's a lot of really good storytelling opportunities that they can have to use, not just terms of exposition and characters talking and you experiencing cutscenes and things of that nature, but like also through all of the world, through the weapons, through the weapon systems, through the movement, through the characters, the character designs that would really be able to set this game apart. And I think that there's so many opportunities to do it well, and I think there's also so many opportunities to mess it up. And so I'm kind of excited and fearful at the same time. I mean, I also have a lot of different theories in terms of like what can go into and what I would like to see out of the Timekeeper as a villain. There's a lot we obviously still don't know, but I think that there's easy ways to show that he's incredibly powerful and, also incredibly menacing in terms of a villain and there being actual real world consequences to the things that he can do. I mean, I have a whole story beat that I would love to have happen that I think would be great. That would kind of also parallel some of the story beats into Borderlands 2 that a lot of people liked. How about you, Steve?
Honestly, I'm kind of piggybacking on what you just said there. You mentioned how these weapons are on this planet. Nothing should be here that we previously know or have used, right? Could manufacturer wise or anything.
Theoretically, like it would make
right?
sense for like, for Marcus, for instance, as the character to be like, we're on a new planet. I can get there through Elpis. Oh, I'm going to exploit this situation and expand my, capitalist gun empire to a new world. But I don't think that he's going to be the sole reason why there's guns on that planet. You know what I mean? There has to be some kind of weapons that were there that they were using, especially if you have something like the Timekeeper that's there. And, they're not just going to do full on hand to hand combat the whole time.
Now, the question is this. We have our staple manufacturers, right? The Dahl, Hyperion, Jacob, Smalley, One, Tidor, Torg, Vladov. They've been in all the titles. We've had a couple rotating ones, obviously, with the Iridians, SS Munitions, Scabbed, Abandoned to COV, and Alice is come and gone. But I think here, with this scenario and how we're going to get these manufacturers involved in the game, I do not think this is this happened, and then immediately this happened, and then immediately this happened. I think I'm starting to speculate that Elpis crashed here, and then there's going to be a huge time gap to allow everyone to kind of understand what happened around the solar system, address it, and maybe move into the scenario, move into the narrative. And then boom, like 20, 30, 40 years later, hence maybe why Zane looks a little bit older in the trailer to kind of give us a tease us. That's kind of the narrative they're going. Hey, we now know you're here. We've been moving in for years. Now the story is ready to take shape. I just think that they needed that time buff because to come up with all new stuff, I mean, oof, that's gonna be
I mean,
pretty
I'm not
interesting.
saying I'm not. Again, it could be versions of these manufacturers. I don't think that they would do that, a whole new manufacturer cycle, especially with like people will be like, I want these guns back, and these guns are made by these manufacturers. You
Yeah, yeah.
know, like I think a lot of people were hoping for like laser weapons and E-Tech. I would love for those two to come back, and I think that'd be an interesting, easy way to introduce it by having the native manufacturer say, make laser weapons and E-Tech. You
You
know.
see, there was like a moment we saw like the Jacobs pistol. It appeared to be a Jacobs pistol, but it
Yeah.
had some techie stuff on it. So it makes me feel like the manufacturers came here, they settled in, and they're kind of just starting to dig their on screen here are starting to get their nails into the technology of the current planet and implement that into their product. I just can't. Typically, you don't see Jacobs looking like this. I can only imagine that there's a significant time jump from the moment Elpis crashed here and
That
when
would
we were able
that would
to play the game.
that would lean itself to a lot of other really possibly good story beats and storylines that you can run with. You know, I think
Mikey,
that
what do
there's
you
like
think?
a
What do
really
you think?
so okay, like obviously Ava is going to be in this game, right? And we all do not like her as a character. I think that's the one thing that the Borderlands community can unanimously agree on is Ava is not fondly referred to. Okay, and that's probably the nicest way I could say.
Did you
Um,
to cut you off? Did you see the scene that they cut out about Ava, about the funeral scene that probably would have fixed her whole narrative?
yes, I did see that, and I don't know why they cut it.
Michael, are you familiar with this?
I've listened on my way to school about Ava's or Lilith's, I'm sorry, Maya's funeral, and how Ava was
Miles'
like
funeral.
very empathetic, and we didn't really get that side of her in the base game because they
Showed
cut that scene.
showed maturity, showed closure. Okay, a sense of ready to move on and grow up a little bit, and not just be a uh, hard-headed, whole grudge child. It's been all cut
Yeah,
out. All we know is the kid that we know today.
it would also make sense, like if showing that aspect and that point of vulnerability um, would allow us to then kind of excuse a lot of her other behavior because you're like, okay, we understand that this person's actually going through something and they're maybe acting out, and that makes more sense than her just being an asshole. Um, I also think that, you know, there's this concept from The Art of War where they say that an enemy that is converted into an ally is often going to be stronger than somebody that started as an ally. And it's a thought that I was like, how does that apply necessarily to maybe a storytelling arc? And I think that because so many people have this negative connotation of Ava, there's an opportunity to paint her as a much better and more useful character that people actually care about, that because so many people started off hating her, they'll once they're converted, they'll definitely be on the side of it. And there's like I said, this is a huge opportunity where they can make her more insufferable, or they can make her a character that we're gonna like. You know what I mean?
Now she's going to
And
be a NPC, you think, right? Because we have the Vault Hunters, and she does not appear to be one of the sirens.
no, I'm firmly on this Vault Hunter is Emily Swan camp.
Oh yeah, I've seen this stuff. Yep.
That to me would be great. It'd be call-ins to other games. You know, I personally, the big mech'd out looking dude, like I just see Wilhelm when I look at him. I'm like, this is definitely old concept art of Wilhelm that they never used. And I would love for him to somehow be related to Wilhelm, similarly to how Zane is a Flint, you know, and there's that kind of family callback to within the games. And I think I've also heard the theory that the shorter girl that looks like she's wearing the Mollywan pants. A lot of people have said that she could be a Trant, and I like that. I think that's funny, you know.
They always had some fun
Uh,
dialogue. I love the Trants.
yeah, the Trants were funny. I think those heavies in Borderlands 3 had some of the best voice lines out of
Mhm.
any of the mobs that you fought on a regular basis. Um, again, I'd love to see some more betrayal in this game, like we saw in Borderlands 2. I thought that a really good story beat for 3 would have been if Troy joined you got the good guys. Like, why didn't that happen? That was like so easy. You could have done the Troy betrayal.
Yeah.
Irene goes nuts, and then you have like anti-hero, redeemed hero, essentially like Vegeta version of Troy that's now a good guy. Like, how fun of an NPC would he be to fight alongside? You know what I mean?
So are you looking for like more
Um,
like a shock element to the story? Like a
so
wow, I can't believe that
I
kind of
have
happened.
like this is my dream scenario. And I've used like theories from other RPGs and other ARPG and action RPGs that have existed to kind of showcase this idea, right? And it's like, first off, you know, I have to say this about the Timekeeper is that the best way they can do the Timekeeper is in a like comedy writing concept called the Straight Man, where you have a guy in a sketch or in a story that is not doing comic relief stuff, that is completely serious, that is completely together with the like world that they exist in, and then you have like your wacky zany characters. And I think that the Timekeeper needs to be the straight man of this, whereas Handsome Jack was very much like a like let me be the center of attention kind of villain. I think the Timekeeper needs to be very serious, and I think that would like really make him more menacing in terms of a villain,
Yeah.
and not serious in the sense of like a fuddy-duddy, like typical, CEO that we see from like the Borderlands universe, but like genuinely serious and menacing. And so this is kind of my ideal way the story kind of goes. And this is also going to kind of maybe help transition and include some of my wants out of the game as well. Um, so, Steve, unless you had something else to say, man, I'd love to jump into that.
I think the Timekeeper, I think you nailed it, needs to be very serious. I think the tone of him needs to be if whenever he's on screen or he's involved in a scenario where we're involved in as a vault hunter, I would like him to take us very seriously.
Yeah,
Any interaction he has with us, he's not the quote play with your food. We'll see if we can get it done with lack of resources. No, I want him to take us as seriously gets, and I think we need to demonstrate as vault hunters that we need to be taken seriously.
we can beat that. Yeah, yeah. The other thing is that like I would love for him to be written like a really good villain that's like does scary things. You know,
Like when he's on
um,
screen, like okay, we don't know what's gonna happen. We're on edge.
Yes, 100%. I don't want to know what his next move is. I don't want him to be predictable. I'd love if they took some story beats. I mean, my personal favorite all-time villain in fiction is a character named Johan from a manga called Monster, written by Naoki Urasawa. He is the only fictional character that I've ever been real life scared of. And I'd love for he's got a lot of menacing, like you were just saying, Steve. Like you don't know what he's gonna do when he's on screen, and when he's not on screen, you feel like he's there watching. So here's my ideal start to this game. You pick a character, and then you pick one skill tree. And what it does is it completely maxes out that skill tree to the capstone right off the start of the game. So you're starting the intro of the game with full power. Okay.
Hmm.
Very
Hmm.
similarly to the intro to Borderlands 3. Okay. Where you have a fully maxed out turret. You have Maya using her full powers. You have Zero using basically his full powers. You have Salvador doing his full thing. Like, kind of letting you play almost the intro to Borderlands 2 in a way. And a lot of other RPGs have done this in a sense where you start off with a fully maxed out character and have your power stripped, right?
Like the game is allowing you to get a taste of what you could be if you keep playing the game.
Exactly. This is your goal, is to get to this point. Okay.
Mhm.
Need for Speed Carbon does that. They give you a car in the very beginning that's like super, super fast, and you're running from the cops, then you crash out and you start from scratch.
The BMW.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah. And I think that that's a great story beat. Now, this is what I think happens. Let's say you're a hired gun for Queen, I think it's Callus is her name. Like the
Callus.
Ripper's like she's not just doing the like face mask mind control bandit thing. She's also using the wealth that she's accrued using these guys as slave labor to hire mercs that are of a higher caliber than just these kind of grunt level, cannon fodder guys that she's mind controlling. Okay. And so each one of your vault hunters is one of these mercs, but there's a lot of other of these mercs alongside of you. I think you see that other guy that almost looks like he's the same size as the big buff vault hunter. Later, he's got a mustache, like a goatee. He's got like a long hair and a ponytail. He's wearing like green armor, and they just kind of show a flash of him right before they show the flash of that other chick that's got like cracked skin and is wearing that white and gold outfit with the white hair. You guys know what I'm talking about? So let's
Yeah,
just say that he's another one of these mercs that's alongside of you. And I would love to see like a big battle with many enemies fighting each other, but also can be aggroed by you. And this is how you start the game out, right? So first off, boom, we have this great scene. And then this is a very easy setting in which to give people a tutorial. It gives the veteran vault hunters, and I mean vault hunters, I consider myself a vault hunter. Um, it gives the veteran players this kind of like, oh my God, this isn't your boring like claptrap telling you how to walk intro. This is like a full scale thing, and I'm at full power. And you go through this battle, you get to a certain point where maybe you come face to face with the timekeeper, you come face to face with one of his goons, and then the timekeeper just kind of snaps his fingers and completely strips you of all your power, and then throws you into a pile of bodies, essentially. And depending on how many people you're playing with, the people that survive are your vault hunters. Okay, but now,
Michael, did you share our theory with this about that opening scene? I think he's starting to hint that a little bit. We kind of discussed before.
Yeah, just to recap episode 1 real quick is that I think we both came to the conclusion that that opening battle is that the Ripper clan, we believe that's the Ripper clan, gets absolutely worked by the timekeeper, and that is our proof or our evidence comes from the final cutscene with the timekeeper, how it's all bandit parts stripped around, and he's the only one remaining.
Yeah. So again, that we're kind of on the same page here with like, let's say that we participate in that battle and we're part of the people that get their butts kicked, right? Then I would love to repeat this story beat. I would love for you and the pile of bodies to be found by none other than the most annoying robot in the universe, Claptrap. And you kind of have this callback to Borderlands 2, where he finds you and he's like, "You're not dead.
He's digging you out of the snow.
You're way too good at that."
Like he's digging you out of the snow. And I think that would be fun for a lot of people. Now, this is the part of the story where one of my wants comes in, which is melee weapons. I would love to have melee weapons be a standalone thing in this game. It would be really cool to bring that back, especially if you have like a good portion. Like just kind of go back to our conversation about weapons manufacturers. Maybe there weren't so many gun manufacturers on the planet. There were one or two, and the rest of the stuff was done with hand-to-hand combat. And I think Jolt's made a video that he released earlier today where he's talking about like you can't really see any guns in the hands of the Rippers the whole time. So maybe they have their own melee weapons, and so maybe Claptrap throws you a melee weapon and you don't get a gun until after you finish this whole kind of first part of the story with Claptrap, where he's now explaining to you how to use the melee weapon to its full capability. Right?
Maybe it's like introduction of the melee weapon to the Borderlands franchise. So we need to really introduce the player how to use this thing, prove yourself to the Rippers, you know how to use it. Then being said,
not prove yourself to the Rippers, because he's like, wow, you maybe really made a bad choice joining the Rippers. I know another crew that is going to love you. Okay. And that's our traditional crew. I would love for an NPC to be rescued with you. And this NPC is going to come in important later in what I want for the story. But it's very important that there's an NPC that's alongside of you. Also, I think it's really important to have that as a game mechanic because if some people struggle with the melee stuff and they don't want to do it, you need to have something around in the game kind of digitally that's going to be able to kind of carry you through a kind of difficult part if you struggle with it. You know what I
You know
mean?
what?
So
I
instead
to
of
piggyback off that, I've played a game. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. Where you have a NPC companion with you, and you can always go up to it and select and like, click to talk, and it can be one of them's like hint whenever you're like, hey, maybe we should do this, and he always kind of keeps you pushing through the game if you kind of get like sidetracked or like I don't know what to do next. Go up to your old companion buddy,
so
hit hint,
yeah.
and then he tells you maybe we should talk to this. Go up here, do that.
I think some of the NPCs in Skyrim did that in a later update. They'll be like, maybe we should be looking for a switch or something like that.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm just making that up on the spot. That could also be a
I'll
possibility.
jump in right here on the melee weapons because melee weapons is something that people have talked about a lot. I actually, I don't want to see melee weapons enter Borderlands. I think it's a big thing that makes Wonderlands special is how it's a Dungeons and Dragons game that gives you melee combat. I kind of would like to see Borderlands
So
remain a gun-based game. And that's just me personally.
I don't want to see. Maybe I'm mistaken. I don't want to see it as a main weapon, as like an equipable weapon. I just want it to melee weapon that you equip augments your melee strike. So now instead of swinging whatever your default thing is, if it's an axe, if it's a punch, if it's a this, you're swinging a weapon that has different stats, right? I don't want it to be an
How is that
equipable
different
thing.
than
I
it?
agree with
You
you.
just said not an equipable weapon, but then you said it's a weapon that you equip that augments your weapon to something different with stat. It's exact. You just
No,
explain
yeah,
Wonderland system.
it augments your melee instead of being a gun. And again, I don't think it would necessarily be viable on every. But again, if they're going to introduce it, I'd love for it to be introduced in this way.
Now, a
Um,
way they could maybe get creative with this is know how they have all the manufacturers, and they rotate usually the Bandit, COV, Scav manufacturer. Okay, now that I'm expecting them to maybe have the Ripper or some sort of Bandit-based weapon manufacturer type. Let's just say Ripper. Okay, maybe a way to because they're always the Big Mag manufacturer. Am I wrong? Usually that's the Big Mag.
mhm.
Um, what if the way to when on break it just turns into a knife. The gun is disabled. It doesn't shoot well. You're broken, but it just turns into like a melee thing. And the only way to take it out of it is to reload it. So maybe introducing that new mechanic into the game of hey, Big Mag, Ripper, they rip into the flesh. So that whole narrative, it breaks and a knife thing pops out, kind of like Assassin's Creed, and you can use this thing. This is our melee. This is as close to melee as we can get, but we don't want to make it a whole weapon slot.
Yeah, that would be
Weapon
interesting.
break. Weapon
I think
break.
it's a great idea. Did you just for to disclose? Did you watch Jotsu's video because he?
I watched Joseph's
Talk
video and
about,
he had something like that, but he
Okay,
never mentioned
because I
like
was gonna
like
say
like
it sounds like your
shrapnel.
idea sounds very
Shrapnel.
similar. Yeah.
He said
he talked
shrapnel. I'm
about
thinking more of a knife.
he talked about them blowing up, but it's definitely different to think about it in terms of it becoming just like a knife.
Hmm. Just like
Um,
just some it breaks and you can't shoot it, but it's a blunt weapon and it probably has a knife or a sharp edge on it
It's a
anyway.
great
So
idea.
the
It's a
only way
great
to use
idea.
it is just to use to
so
swing it around.
so most of them would probably have like most of them would be bladed. So you'd
Mhm.
know if you see a big bladed weapon on the floor, like, oh, that's a
I mean
um
you see a COV weapon or a banner or a scab weapon. It looks like it's just put together in someone's garage, and I think that you can
yeah,
do that with the
yeah.
rippers.
Yeah, I think that it's a great concept. It's also not something that we've necessarily seen. I mean, we've had the undermount barrels, and I think this is kind of like a natural progression
Hmm.
from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, anyway, I'd love to get back to kind of again. So let's say, if I may, I don't want to cut you guys off.
Well, please
If
keep going because we
let's let,
spent
let's
like an
let's
hour and
say
a half talking about Borderlands 4 theories and thoughts. So go ahead, do your thing.
so so jumping back into where we were. Let's say they do introduce melee weapons. Let's just go with that for now because it's something that I think it would be an interesting way to introduce it, right? So Claptrap shows you how to use the melee weapon. You do some more mobbing, you get to wherever the main hub is, and you have this NPC with you that kind of joins the cast of characters that we're familiar with, that we've been reintroduced to, whatever. Moxie, Zane, we don't know if he's going to be at your main hub, wherever he's going to be, but let's say it's the cast of characters we know. Now, I think at this point, what I would love to see is that, yeah, I know they left Ava in charge, but I would love for Ava to be like, I'm out of here. I need to do a hero montage, so I'm going to leave. And leaves Ellie in charge because Tannis is obviously unstable. Okay. I always thought that Ellie should have been in charge. She's the most level-headed character, despite, freely crushing people in a car crusher while they're alive. That being said, Ellie's in charge. She's like, great, new Vault Hunters, great, we can use your help, other NPC that was saved. Again, let the rest of the story play out. And I think that this whole time, this other NPC that was saved with you, that joined up with you, ends up being working for the Timekeeper the whole time. And
I would go back to your
then
betrayal theme that you want to see more of.
yes, the betrayal theme, and it's kind of like a callback to Angel and as well, in a sense, because she's with you the whole time.
I want
But
a longer
very
investment
different.
with this NPC, because Angel was earlier half of the game. We found her true intentions. Maybe it wasn't even halfway through the
Yeah.
Borderlands 2. But I think we could have this NPC go throughout the entire game, and at the end, the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah, and they have to prove themselves. Usually in battle, like you have to like do something really hard together to form that bond. We definitely want to form that bond before the betrayal, otherwise it won't hit.
Exactly. But I would like that to be a big story beat, and I think that that's something that that would really set the game apart. I think it would be it's a very serious thing to have happen. You know what I mean? You have the Angel betrayal, but like, because it wouldn't really hit like this would, and I think this would be such good writing. You know what I mean? Which is something that Gearbox has been getting a lot of flack for. So I think a well-written story can save Gearbox in a lot of ways for Borderlands 4.
So I'm coming off. This is right off the top of my head, going off of exactly what you just said about NPC ultimate betrayal. This fits for me. A Gollum-like character, just a pathetic, impressionable character. Maybe a Ripper who survived the battle, who's afraid. Timekeeper kind of takes him in as a pushover, like, hey, you do my bidding. Whatever you do, you do exactly as I say. But we find him in the rubble. We think he's been like he was part of that faction that got destroyed, but really he was like this just pathetic. I'm attached to you now because like you need to protect me, but I kind of have all the answers because I'm from here. And throughout the entire game,
I like that conceptually, but I feel like that becomes very obvious because he's obviously like so weak. I would love to see it as like this big strong dude that they put alongside you, that you're like, thank God we have this guy on our side. Because if he's like a sense of, like, think of it this way, like that guy you're expecting to not be trustworthy. So the whole game, even if he's with you, you're going to be like, this guy's going to get me killed. Like, this guy's like Gollum. He's going to push me off a cliff. He's going to lead me
out here.
Yeah, he's a liability. You want a guy that's like, thank God we have this guy. He's our clutch guy. And if all of a sudden your clutch guy is the guy that betrays you, I think that hits so much harder.
I agree.
Because then you're in this position where you're like, this was our ace in the hole to beating the Timekeeper, and now you're telling me I have to fight him and the Timekeeper? Like, way to take the wind out of your sails. And then obviously after you find this in true RPG fashion, that's when you go to the snow level.
I'm not sure how this would work, because you can do a 4-person co-op, like a 4-person playthrough with the 4 Vault Hunters. What if like if you're playing solo or even 2, whatever Vault Hunters weren't chosen are kind of like NPCs in the game themselves, and they're kind of you're going through the game with them too, like maybe a mission here and a mission there, and one of them just betrays you.
That would be interesting. And that would be interesting if that's the story, but then also playing as them, you get completely different cutscenes because maybe you're communicating with the Timekeeper the whole time.
Could you imagine if they turned the Vault Hunters you don't choose into characters? That would be so cool. I don't think they'd ever do it.
I think it would be so difficult. I don't know how they would do that. It would be difficult.
It would have to hand draw a million cutscenes because each cutscene is hand drawn digitally, and if you change the characters around and have them around like but different permutations based on who you choose and who you don't choose, they would have to. The game would be in development for a super long time. Like it would take forever to draw all that out.
I think it would also change the mechanics greatly. You know what I mean?
Just use AI.
Yeah, I mean it would be.
You have my permission.
Permission to use AI.
Very interesting there.
So, and then again, that's the kind of like my beats for the story. I also have this theory about the Timekeeper and why he's called the Timekeeper. I think that maybe another thing that'd be interesting about him is first off, all of the other vaults that we've seen seem very like rock-like. This is kind of like a lot of things that have been like noted on, even Randy Pitchford talked about it. But the Timekeeper's vault, or at least the one that he appears in, seems to be very very technologically based. And what if all of the other vaults were tests? And that this one is the one that they wanted to build. And the whole reason that they created the vaults in the first place was actually to close the Timekeeper away. I know Nereid's messages don't make him seem as menacing as Graveward or anything like else, but maybe she's trying to say that they're a constant in the universe. And maybe the Timekeeper is the one that is kind of the reason, and his job in the universe is to ensure that this great war happens, and that ties into the story arc that we're all looking for with the Watchers. Like, we're going to need all the Vault Hunters you can get. And that sets this up to be the Great War. Because I don't know, like, we all kind of thought that was going to happen in Borderlands 3, and that, you know, the Children of the Vault and this kind of massive army that they're building, like, that was going to be the Great War. But that obviously wasn't it.
Steve, what do you think about that?
The more I think about it, the more I think that Borderlands 3 was the longest filler episode in the story of Borderlands ever.
Yeah.
You know how shows they need to stretch out the series. We need 2 or 3 filler episodes,
for
but like
pure character development. So this was just
that's
character
it.
development for the
Even
Vault Hunters,
even if it's
so that they
like
could be great
2
NPCs.
seconds, even if it's 2 seconds on screen, it was enough to bridge the big plot from episode 1 to episode 7. You know, we just need something. I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I really okay. I know I understand they said don't find what this was. It don't be looking for the last siren, whatever number that was. I really don't know what's going on here. I think that's the kind of the mystery and the magic of why they're not showing us a lot here in the trailer. A lot to discover. I know what I do have. I do have a lot of wish lists for quality of life improvements for Borderlands 4.
Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and we'll jump into that right now. So I think we'll end this discussions about the trailer and there, and we'll jump right into Borderlands wish list style, because a lot of the discussion recently in all the comment sections of all the major videos has been things we want to see in the new game. So Steve, since you hinted at it, let's give us one of your wish list items, and we can tell you how bad your idea is.
Okay, perfect. All right, rip me apart. I'll rapid fire 5 of them off, and you just tell me how it is. I have a bunch, but here we go. More options. I'm like we were talking about more options with the test dummy in range. Just kind of give me some options on how the interaction with that test dummy is. Respec station in the same room as the test range. No fee. I'm trying to dial in my gun.
I like that.
I don't want to be running across my old sanctuary to go make some minor 1% changes. I think it's a waste of time.
I think you should be able to respec from the skill like tree map, like right from there.
In that menu,
and then have a couple in that menu, and then have in like to add on to that. I want to be able to have like sets that I can switch from on the fly, so I can switch my play style on the fly, just like I would be switching gear. And I would love to have gear sets on to kind of piggyback off of that. You know,
it really eliminates a lot of respec station time if you're going to be making certain loadouts.
Yeah, and then just give you the opportunity to do it. You know what I mean? Like, give me the opportunity. Like, I don't. It's not something that ever made sense to be currency tied for anything. You know what I mean? Like,
I agree. I have another one here.
I'll jump in since we're jumping in there. Okay. These sound like great quality of life improvements to save the player time and give the player convenience, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I value that, but I value immersion more.
Mhm.
I want to go to a respec station, and I want my choices to matter regardless of how many times I do it. So I like the percentage based respec. Like, no matter how rich you get, if you want to respec, that costs something. But I do like gear sets, like you were saying, like you could save one of your skill loadouts to be the Grenadier. Say if I'm playing Axton, right? The Grenadier, and it has all my grenade skills, and then the shield guy, and I can have all my shield skills. So like, I like that kind of quick swap idea. But I don't want to be able to respec on the fly. I don't want it to be free unless it's by the dummy station. I like that idea.
I totally
I
get
like the
that. I totally
dummy.
get that.
I like doing more stuff in the dummy. I would even love maybe like a test arena, if even possible,
Oh
where you
wait,
can like spawn in
I've thought about
enemies that
this.
you've beaten before. You know what I mean? Like just for like a test dummy. Like, oh, I can spawn in, a bunch of rippers. I can spawn in a bunch of skags. I can spawn in a bunch of this. Like,
Now, Mike, we
I
talked
don't know.
about this. If I engage an enemy in the world, I'm allowed to pull up the holographic information in the test range.
Yeah, like a bestiary. Like, why has that never been introduced in any of the
I
Borderlands?
think we called it the
We're
border
taking this
decks
many
when we were discussing it.
Border decks.
The border decks.
border decks. I like that.
Yeah. That actually, it's so funny that you mentioned that, Mike, because one of my quality of life changes for my wish list is bank UI redesign, custom pages, maybe like a Pokedex, the Pokebox.
Complete overhaul. I'm
And
totally in favor.
just U-Haul. Yeah, I don't have a general like what they should do, but just something different. I was just running through pages, no rhyme or reason. All right, I understand you can categorize it by type and manufacturer, but I don't know, maybe let me customize it. What about this, guys? 4 weapon slot availability, no level unlocking. Just give us the 4 in the beginning of the game and leave me alone.
Yeah, I
Would you
never
agree?
understood.
Do you agree
I
with that,
never
Michael? Do you
understood
agree
that
with
one.
that, or you don't agree with that?
And I don't want to be the guy who always disagrees, but I like the
You
sense
can't.
of
No, you can't. You
progression.
can't.
I like the sense of like,
Okay.
I have my 3rd weapon slot, and for me, weapon slots matter. So it's for everyone, but like I think about my one weapon's always my primary. What I want when I'm my test weapon, my new weapon, it's my goes to my 1. My 2 is always whatever my most my most important utility. Usually slag, but if it's a Grognozzle, it's slag and healing. 3 is always the weapon that 1 can't deal with. So if 1's a shotgun, for instance, 3 will usually be a sniper rifle. Or if 1 is like a Kerblaster that's really good against enemies on the ground, then 3 will be something that's good against enemies in the air, and 4 is a launcher. So like each one is assigned a certain role, and I like the fact that I have to unlock that ability. It's a major thing of strength in the game is being able to hot swap. So it's like a huge power spike, in my opinion, that I like it a little bit to be unlocked, kind of like a skill point, like a capstone. It's a huge boost in power that I get for progressing the story. That feels really good. It doesn't feel as good if you get all 4 right away, especially because for a new player, like I guess I get the argument of I give you all 4 because why not? It's like give everyone all 4. That way you can put 4 weapons and you can try way more guns, especially from early on. But I do like getting that nice power boost and getting that dopamine of like, oh my gosh, I can finally put my launcher on slot 4.
I think a lot. I think the
That makes
first like
sense.
4 or
That makes
5.
sense.
I think my first 4 or 5 like quality of life changes are all convenience based, making it easier for the player. And maybe like you're saying, Michael, maybe that's just not a good thing. Maybe you need to work a little bit for the game. But like I said,
Also, he makes a good point with it's also kind of like a storytelling in a lot of ways too, because it shows that like if we're say going with the story intro that I said, maybe you start the game, you got 4 weapon slots, you can throw a bunch of crazy purple gear on, and then you get found, and now you only have.
Mhm, mhm.
And so it's one of those things that's like another thing that we can show that can be taken from you or something like that. I also like recently have been playing a lot of Arms Race on BL3 because I've been trying to just get back into it and I don't want to like worry about like gear or anything like that. And I just want to play a mode that I can just kind of mindlessly play infinitely. And I've noticed that like having 4 white weapons in a loadout, it's not always also like the most fun thing to manage. And when you get better gear, it's actually better to have that diversity and being able to hold more of it. And so I also don't like, as much as I initially thought it's good. I also think that for new players, having 2 things and introducing the capability of using more and more weapons on the fly to new players is probably better, just in terms of getting more comfortable with the game. Because the games, there's so much like variety in the weapons that you can use, that maybe being able to concentrate on 2 at a time for the beginning to really find out what you like and then diversify to more, um, might be for the best. I don't know.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Kind of simplify the game for a beginner player to kind of not get overwhelmed with the amount of options. They don't know what gun they have equipped to. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
I
lot
wanted
of
to
ways
real
you can
quick
approach
touch
it. I mean,
on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
there's a lot of different ways you can approach it, really.
Mhm.
I wanted to real quick touch on your dummy station idea.
Okay.
So I have been all for on my streams and my videos. I've talked ad nauseum about upgrading the dummy system, and I think that the developers have a bit of a problem where they don't want you to like have a bandit just like roped in that you torture all the time. Like Randy Pitchford has said to the media, like he doesn't like how there's murder in Borderlands. Like you murder Handsome Jack, that's murder. Like, he doesn't want the player to be committing like acts of heinous crime. But that being said, like you can still give us a dummy that works. Like Handsome Jack on Sanctuary 3 Spaceship didn't, the cardboard cutout didn't function because it didn't get mayhem scaling, and it wasn't programmed as an enemy that could be targeted by auto sentries and stuff like that. You can give us a dummy that works, like Dungeon Defenders, a game that came out so long ago. It's like it's a tiny game from way back in the day. In the tavern, the hub area, there's a dummy, and when you put down a spell, that spell will target the dummy, and it gives you very clear DPS numbers of like what you're doing and how it's working. Like I don't feel like it's that much to ask to give us a dummy that works, especially if you put out mayhem levels, like scale it to mayhem, like just figure it out. Just give us something that works.
I don't care what it looks like. You can give me a circle target as long as I can input what I'm shooting at. That's all I'm looking for. I just want to be able to change.
Input some movement into it.
I like the idea of the arena, like Tall said, the arena, like maybe set the arena, maybe have some stationary targets, but then you can like set your settings and go through this door, and then boom, it's like your enemy types are around you and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny. I actually put it on my list here. That I have something that touches that a little bit. Quality of life change, melee and shoot open chests.
Yes, please. Or slide into them.
What about weighted chests?
Weighted chests?
Ammo weighted.
Like chests that have physics to them?
Like no, like if I'm using an assault rifle, it's in my hand right now, I'm more likely to get assault rifle ammo from that chest.
I think exists. I think it exists in the game already in the form of if you are low on any weapon type, it will feed you that weapon type, and you're more likely to be low on the weapon type that you want most as you're using it.
Okay.
It's always been a thing.
What about less? I didn't know that. Less backtracking for turn-ins. Utilize echo device more.
Yeah, I never understood why that's not a constant thing.
I am all for going to a physical person and turning in if it helps move the story forward and gets me immersive. But if I'm constantly going back to Lilith over and over, and all I need to do is call her up and like, hey, I did your thing. I'm already out here. What do you need me to do? Because if I'm there and there's nothing for me to do there with you there, then why did I go back there?
Maybe not like for everything, but I like, for instance, like let's make the progression make sense at least, right? Like if I have a bunch of missions that are all in line with one thing, maybe not have to go back to Lilith every time, but there should be points where you should have to revisit the NPCs. I think there should be like a balance to it. It shouldn't be talk to Lilith simulator though.
Mikey, what do you think?
I think step one in what you're saying, and this is not really 100% related, but okay, there's a fix to your issue of backtracking for turn-ins, and it's not a good fix, but something that I've been doing in my collected all Axton playthrough. It's the save quit method, where as soon as you complete the objective, you save quit because that'll put you next to a fast travel station, and that ruins immersion. That ruins immersion, but it's the fastest way. So I never backtrack anymore. As soon as I finish the mission, save quit, and I go back to the fast travel station. But I think having a secondary objective on the minimap with objective markers and a primary objective will allow you to move through areas a little bit more smoothly and pick up multiple quest items at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to toggle multiple. If like on your map, you could toggle multiple missions. I know not everybody would want that for visual clutter, but it'd be great to know, like, hey, I have 4 things that I can do in this area.
Speaking of clutter, it's not on my list, but I'm going to throw it out there right now. Screen pollution slider. Help us, Gearbox. Help us help you. Help me dial that up and down if I need to.
I also think that being able to dial that up and down will allow for another kind of marker that people can use to have the game run better for them. Because I feel like that was a big issue with some people running it on different platforms, and the game crashes is like all of the screen particles at the same time. And if you could dial that down, I feel like that might be able to help the game run better for longer stretches of time. Because every game at this point launches with some bugs, so we have to expect there to be some bugs.
Okay.
All right, Steve, is that okay? You still got more, or are you good, or what's going on?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I have. Okay, if you want to push forward, I have a couple of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 things.
Okay.
And then just endgame ones.
Okay, drop them.
Okay. In the like sanctuary area, have manufacturer presence to be able to interact with them, challenges, rewards. Kind of like if you go to a job fair, you see like Army, Navy, Marine Corps have their tent set up, and they're like, "Hey, come over here, talk to us. We want to engage with you about something." Kind of have like the manufacturers there and be able to push certain side missions with them. And if you kind of like progress with them to a certain point further than the other ones lock, and then you have to progress, complete them. You can maybe get a exclusive reward or legendary piece of gear through that manufacturer. That'd be kind of interesting. Keep the Hall of Fame wall of gear.
That manufacturer like setup sounds a lot like Skyrim's faction system. Like you can choose to go to Riften to join the Thieves Guild, or you can go join the Assassins clan, or you can join the whatever the warrior clan is in Whiterun, and those are all like very long side quests, but like make you choose a certain faction. I think that's a good idea.
Yep, for sure. Maybe summon a mule to be able to do. Gear.
I think you should be able to do all of them, but maybe only pick one as the ultimate reward. Because I understand that they might want to maybe lock it to playthroughs, but if you do that, it would be cool if the like Sanctuary, or let's call it Sanctuary 4 for now, right? If Sanctuary changed as your loyalty to a certain manufacturer changed. So like
allow you to kind of go back and play it again, see what happens.
You'd see it like be like the Vladoff hub if you went full Vladoff. And by the end of it, and then you had like maybe a few more NPCs like speaking with the Russian accent and kind of doing that, and that kind of changes your playthrough from playthrough to play. I actually think no, don't do all of them. You're right. Factionize it, and then it'd be another additional thing that you can have like be cool about your hub. Maybe like
it just gives you another reason to go back in, play the game again, but choose that faction and kind of progress through them a little bit. I'm gonna rip rapid fire here. The last of these things, so we can move on with our discussion. Not have items fall to the floor. Gearbox, please listen to us. Do not fall to the floor anymore. Allow first and third person viewpoints with a push of a key. Third person toggle option, left or right stance on screen. I think just a little change on screen. Don't have to be super technical like a Gear of War where like or whatever a mantle against walls. Don't even worry about that. Butterfly effect for decision making. Advance the story. No right answers, but every consequences have decisions. Everything has a consequence. Sorry. No matter what the story does, drive forward. And I said at the very end, summon a mule to exfil your gear back to your base when you're out in the world doing stuff, so you don't have to keep going back. But it's a convenience thing, and sometimes convenience is always the best thing. All right, that's what I got for quality of life wish list.
I like the gun mule. I like that. It could be a
Like
character too.
Hey, Claptrap, come me out. I need to get some gun back to the base. Here you go.
In
Fill
Dota
you up.
2,
See
they
you
call
later.
them couriers. They're called couriers. They go back, you give them gold or something, and they come back with your items. So, like, it's a courier.
Yep.
All right, so I got a bunch of. Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, since some of these are obvious, I want like more weapon rarities, that are tied to different things. I don't care if you release them with DLC, but like some kind of real end game loot that's not legendaries. I want legendaries to feel like they're legendaries. If that means that you put less of them in the game and make them all stronger, then that so be it. Like I want them to feel like, oh my God, I have like a really important piece of gear. Um, Obviously dedicated drops at launch. I think this is like I feel like I have to hit the like ridiculous, the overly said ones, but I always feel like I need to hit that. Um, I would like to see a roadmap at launch. I'd like to know that there's some DLCs on the horizon, that they're going to tell us, hey, we're planning on doing updates every 2 months to the systems, so on and so forth. Not and also that including that, let's not go through another nerf apocalypse. This is a PvE game. Like if we have overpowered builds for a little bit, just make something else more overpowered.
Yeah, nerfing the Cutsman
Like
and nerfing
even
the Crossroads at launch was absolutely ridiculous.
like just I would say like instead of like I would say leave a piece of gear at a certain strength and rise everything else up to meet it a little closer, and then maybe bring that down a little. So nerf something by 10 or 15%, but then bring everything else up by 60 or 70 and see what happens there. And then if you're giving out legendaries at the right intervals, it's gonna feel a lot better. I also have a system that I came up with that can allow for anointments to be in the game, but have them not be annoying. Um, we had the weapon charms in Borderlands 3. I would love for all of those to actually have a purpose, and all of those are, let's say, like anointments, right? Similar to like a gem system in a regular RPG, like, oh, I have a sword and it has 3 gem slots. So now I can put 3 anointments.
Would you want your
Can put
gems?
3 charms on.
Would you want to be able to take off a charm? You know, just like taking off like a keychain, and then getting a new gun and putting that
So
keychain
like,
back on.
so here's the thing. Here's the thing about them is that if you have one, you only have one. So if I want to put like maybe it's a modifier that makes my rounds, double explosion damage, I can only put that on one gun. I can't use that and put that on everything. So now they're locked to have only one individually. And I think that'll allow for a lot more build diversity because now you're like, okay, so I'm going to run this gun and I'm going to use a purple rarity because you can find a purple rarity that rolls with 3 charm slots. And then you're going to put certain charms on it. It's going to run and work better than a legendary would.
These anointed charms can only be world drops, so good luck farming them.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know how you do that in drops. Again, dedicated drops is something that I really want. Or maybe they're locked to a certain type of content, right? Like they're locked to a certain type of end game content, so you don't have to worry about them being in your game until you get to a certain point. Or maybe there is a game mode that is the only way you get these things. So now it forces you to, after you beat the game, you unlock a different game mode that allows you to farm these anointments, and you can kind of go through the game. There's more to play. There's more to do. I can now go do the anointment farming, jump back into the game, and then do it that way. Maybe you put these charms tied to like an arms race type of thing. I know I said that I liked arms race, but you know, I think it's a better system than having to like get a god roll, then have to get a god roll with the anointment. It just makes the gear grind annoying and not like I'm doing something and actually having some kind of progression. Um, I'd love part stripping to be a thing. So instead of necessarily farming for god rolls to certain things, maybe I'm farming for the part. So let's say I farm, a Lyuda and it doesn't have the right barrel. I can say, okay, I'm gonna now strip the parts, but I can only get one of them. So if parts are 7, then I would need to farm 7 different versions of the same gun to be able to part it to the perfect thing, right? And you still need your parts to roll, and then you can, for a certain amount of in-game currency, rip the part off, and then you just have that one part. And then kind of like a workbench system, but also tied into the gear grind, so I don't like. I feel like certain things are attainable, and certain things aren't. And then also those guns should have a marker that they were created at the workbench, so that the people that do go for the god rolls off of the rolls, like it's actually special.
Real quick on crafting, because crafting is something that people brought up. Crafting seems like a pretty popular idea. I really like your idea of stripping it apart. I think I would like it even more. I think that you might have explained it. I think this might be what you're getting to. I'm not entirely sure, but say for instance, I strip the Lyuda barrel off, right? And that my previous Lyuda gets destroyed because I took the barrel off of it. Now, let's say 100%. I get my second Lyuda has every perfect part but the barrel. Okay? So what I don't want to be able to take that second Lyuda, take off the barrel, and put on the new one. I don't want that. I want every time you take a part off of a gun, it gets destroyed no matter what. So in order to build a gun, you have to build it from scratch.
Exactly. That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. Because otherwise you can run a farm only a couple of times. I want it to be still work. It's an attainable, achievable way to do it, but it's still work. You know what I mean? And I think that your build diversity gets really, really cool when it comes to doing that with the purple guns. And that's another one of my wants here, is that I want more viable non-legendary gear. That makes the randomizer of bazillions and bazillions of guns actually fun. If I can run purple weapons and they're good, and it's not because I'm running a cloning maddening tracker that I fucking vending machine farm for. Oh, excuse my French. I really want it to be because with the so many legendaries that we've gotten, at a certain point in the game, you're just running a full legendary, right? That's what you're doing. And so I think that if you kind of use those anointments, like I was talking about, as charms and things like that, like you kind of grow the gun system a little bit more. Let's see. I would love challenge run modifiers. You want to have take no damage run. Cool. Run it. Click on it. And then there should be really exclusive like skins and gear tied to these runs. If they wanted a manufacturer run, I'd love to just see a lot of things. And then with updates, they can just create more end game content by updating what the challenges are. So every DLC is going to come with 2, 3, 4 more challenges. So not only going to get this piece of content, but you're also going to get now these challenge runs that now modify that content, so you could play it again in a different way. And I think that's what a lot of Borderlands fans want. I mean, like the entire half the community is mods and stuff like that do this anyway. I'd love also mod support. I don't think it's going to be necessarily too hard. I know it's going to be definitely harder on console, but eventually open up and work towards a mod marketplace, because I know that there are plenty of console players like myself that would love to play Redux on console. Let's see what else I have here. Co-op benefits and quality of life. I want you to be able to save farm quit, or change how save farm quitting works. If there was a possibility to fast travel from anywhere in the world and on the maps, maybe fast traveling to the closest fast travel new U station resets the enemies. And so now I can farm the boss over and over and over again by just respawning at the last save point and running from there. And that's how you can keep the open worlds open. And the only thing that you're doing is moving the playable characters and resetting all the enemies. Okay. I think
that's a great idea.
I don't know how you'd explain that. I don't know how you'd explain it in game, but it's one of the ways that I think you can kind of get around not having to do insane load times.
Real quick,
here we go.
I've been thinking about the whole seamless topic that Randy was teasing. Well, we're going to get into that in a second, but a part of me wants to think that what they mean by seamless is that if you're playing co-op, as of right now, when someone hits the fast travel, they take the whole group with them. Maybe what we might see, and I'm hoping to maybe see, is a world where all 4 players in your co-op are existing in their own instance of the game. Like if everyone's together, but you can be in different areas
No, I see what you mean. Like you could be theoretically each one of you doing
in a different
a
map.
different mission in a different part of the map, in a different map,
Because I don't think it's going
or
to
a
be one
different
giant open
part of the
world.
same. No, I think it's going to be a few really, really big maps.
Yeah, I just want to be able to load, kind of like Minecraft. All of you get into one world. Everyone can do their own thing. Everyone can also meet up if you want to. But as of right now, everyone has to do the same thing at the same time, basically, unless you're doing some crazy, like, you know, you farm Dark Mercy while I farm this other boss over here at the same time.
Yeah, and that's what ends up happening. I mean, if you've played with friends before and you guys both want to farm something, like you're rarely going to farm it together. You know what I mean? You're going to split up and farm it separately. And I think that you should get way more drops when you play with people online. And I think that should double. All right, like you should get times 4 drops, right? Times 2 if you're playing online with, maybe let's say up to 4 people, and times 4 if you're playing couch co-op. I know this sounds weird, but I think you should do that for couch co-op because it's one of the few multiplayer games that still actually has couch co-op. And I think that we need to not let couch co-op die. It's one of the reasons that I always loved Borderlands and I played it is because I could play it with my
Mike, do you, having multiple players go off on their own adventures and farm different bosses, I think might work. I'm no game developer, so I don't really know how this works. I just play the game. But if you're on one side of the map and you're farming X, and I'm on the other side of the map farming X, you could technically, in my world or in your world, leave, go back to the nearest safe, go back in, and he'll respawn because I never rendered that character on my screen, so I don't need to see how many times that character, that boss is loading on your screen. You're
Right.
farming on your own, I'm farming on my own, and it will work because of just what I'm rendering on my screen.
In Sea of
But
Thieves,
once
I
I'm
don't
with
think
you,
in Sea of Thieves, it's a giant open sandbox world with multiple players. If you leave an island and go back, it resets. Now some stuff will remain the same, but a lot of the stuff that can reset will reset. So like it's very simple. If I walk away from that boss, or like he's saying, go to a fast travel nearby, even if it doesn't take the whole group with me, as long as it unrenders that location and then renders it back in, I think that should be enough to do an enemy reset.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, and I think that would make a lot of sense. Um, and that's a way that you can kind of not have to worry about, uh, like having to split your party up to farm the same boss over. You know, just fast travel, run back, fast travel, run back, and it makes farming on console about as fast as farming on PC is, which is like cool. And then you don't take farming out of the game. You know, you keep it like you just improve the system. You know, and it also doesn't force your console or machine or whatever you're playing on, right? Like to just constantly load certain areas. You can render in the area again. It just kicks you out far enough to respawn the enemies.
It's a great idea.
Um, I'd love a takedown that's kind of themed to every DLC. You know what I mean? And I'd love the final boss battle when you fight the timekeeper to be a takedown. So like the first takedown you play and you don't unlock them till after you beat the game is like it's when you go up to fight the timekeeper in the final battle, and I think that this will create a lot more gravity is you have it operate a little bit similar to a takedown or a raid, where like you have to fight multiple bosses, you can't die, and maybe they put more NPCs around you to like lift you up if you go down.
you know what?
If
That's
you're
kind of
not
like where I was.
something.
My wish list for Endgame was I specified 3 takedowns. One theme was the main protagonist theme and their group, like the older whatever. Second was Kairo's creatures theme takedown, and then the third was a simulation manufactured training facility where everything's kind of like holograms You're not like they're like you're training on base, but your own, themed
Yeah.
Like
manufacturer.
Digistruct Peak almost.
Like did you
I
track
would
peak?
I would love to see I would love to see I think someone else mentioned this and I'm just echoing what they said, but I would love to see like an endless version of Digistruct Peak that you unlock after the game where you can like really push your builds to the limit where like it'll just keep getting harder and harder and harder. And every couple of months we'll just hear about a new build that managed to like jump a few more levels into that. And it's truly endless and it's programmed to go on theoretically forever with an endless amount of rounds with increasing loot. Or maybe you unlock a certain amount of like currency exclusive to this thing that allows you to then buy more cool end game gear or end game uh, charms if we're going to keep the charm system in there. Like, I'd love to see something like that that kind of gives you this like infinite playability option
I like the endless idea.
right off the bat.
I like the endless. What I don't want is endless wave defense. But I like it. I think like the idea of clearing a room, like a dungeon style room, and you go into the next dungeon style room, kind of like Chaos Chambers. The thing about endless is that it can't be slow endless. If you've ever played Balatro, which is the deck builder roguelite, when you hit endless in that game, the difficulty exponentially scales. So like, yeah, if you have a really strong run or build going, you can make it into a couple of the endless levels, but then like the score goes from like 800,000 to 12 million, like that, the score you have to reach. And then from 12 million, it goes to like 36 million the next round. You're like, what? But I want the endless to be like really
agree.
hard.
It shouldn't be like ridiculous. It should be slow and incremental, and then maybe like, hey, if I get to a point where I made it to 100 levels, like I can start at level 100.
No, I was
You know
saying the
what I
exact
mean?
opposite. I want it. I don't want the endless to. As soon as you hit endless, like endless round 1 should be harder substantially than the final difficulty. Endless round 2 should be way harder than endless round 1. Endless round 3 should be insanely hard. Like it basically cannot be beaten, unless you manage it. And then you get to endless round 4, and now you're like glitch abusing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, I don't care how it works. I would just love for it to make sense and be good. I'm not a game developer. I don't necessarily understand game theory like the best. If anything, I would say my expertise is more in storytelling, if anything else. Like, so again, I want it to be in. I want it to make sense for the story and have it like written in a make sense kind of way. And I would love to have it be like fun end game unlock, right? Like, don't throw it off the bat. Let it simmer. Let people get to it later. Um,
No.
and then that's why I'd love a clear roadmap. Like, I'd love to know what's coming. Like, that's kind of jumping back into what we're talking about is like I want good things at launch, and then I want to know things um let's see what else I have on here. Yeah, co-op Challenger Myers. I'd love to see some kind of bridge into Borderlands 4. Like, maybe not a full-blown Commander Lilith DLC unless they have something like that planned, which would be dope. But I'd love more reasons to play Borderlands 3 with potential benefits from Borderlands 4. You know what I mean? I'd love like the hype cycle to start. Um, and like I was so into that. I was playing stuff, I was signing in every day, I was checking in on the shift thing for Borderlands 3, and it was fun. It like made me excited for Borderlands. And I know that there's not necessarily a lot of excitement in the community because the recent things that have been released have not necessarily been received the best, especially Tales from the Borderlands, the second one, which I did not play. I definitely watched someone stream that game, and oh my God, that was not great, in my opinion. And so, again, kind of rebuild some of the faith in the fan base. Let's start getting the hype going. Let's start getting that hype train going. Some events and some stuff, and maybe charting to like maybe do an event within Borderlands 3 that'll help people get kind of the bridge towards Borderlands 4. Start maybe, I don't know, like I said, I'd love to, even if it's a video, even if it's an extended cutscene that gets dropped into Borderlands 3 that you have to like beat a small piece of content or go talk to Ava and she's like, I got this message and we're heading to find, Lilith. or you talk to Tannis in Sanctuary, and she tells you, "Hey, we found this transmission. Let's go try to find um, let's go try to find Lilith. Like, we think she's alive." There's been most of the implication has been that Lilith is definitely still alive. And like, do we know that the entire cast of Borderlands 3 knows that? And let's kind of find out together with them that she's still alive and that we can go get her. I think that would be kind of a great storytelling beat to kind of push us into the next game. And that's it. That's all I got. Let me just go through my list again.
Hey, Mike, we didn't mention pod racing. You want to get some racing in this game?
Yeah. So, okay, we'll go through some quick questions on Borderlands 4, and then we'll head into a very fun segment. So, for number one, all right, for everyone, actually, we'll knock out the Borderlands 4 stuff, and then we'll hit up the stuff at the end. So, Randy has teased a seamless open world for Borderlands, but doesn't want us to think of it as an open world because of the baggage that comes with the term. So for us to discuss, what is an open world? What kind of open world do you want in BL4? Steve, you go ahead.
I have a completely different theory sorry.
Go ahead.
Because I've thought about this. I have a theory that he said something in a certain way and he meant us all to take it a different way. And because he's trying to be all Randy tongue in cheek. And he thinks that we're going to take it a different way than we're taking it, and we're focusing on the wrong thing. I think that he might be talking about traversal within the game. And I think, and this is something that you talked about in, I think, your live yesterday or the day before, you were talking about, like, I want to fly a buzzard. And maybe one of the pods that we can get is like a chopper, and we can go up. And when he says anything that you can see, you can go there, he's saying that because you can physically get in a vehicle and it will fly you over there. Instead of it being like a traversal open world kind of thing, like he's literally talking about, like, you see a mountain, you can fly to the top of that mountain. Instead of being like, as far as the eye can see, there's no bounding box on the whole thing. You can go to the entirety of the map from coast to coast. Maybe that's not what he's saying. He was trying to be more tongue in cheek about trying to reveal that he, about traversal in the game in the vehicle. And maybe we'll get a little aerial vehicle. Wouldn't want to get into a buzzard dogfight. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think the seamless world comment. I think what he means is you're gonna be like we said before, that open world, especially when they're in the trailer, they're showing the guns. You're just walking aimlessly in nowhere. Where you are, you're on a road. I think you're just in this open dome area. I think you'll be able to just seamlessly enter each faction's area. I think lack of load time. I think you going there, like in the directions, maybe rendering that space as you're walking. I think be able to have these pod racers just like an access point. I think it's load timing is what he's talking about. Being able to go from one space to another. I forgive me if I'm wrong. I remember, if it wasn't Randy, someone else saying we don't want our players to we don't want to create buzzers because we don't want players to fly. I think they were talking about the movie.
I don't remember that. But
he was talking about the movie, like the set and like them like oh we got our in the movie, like, we got our people up on the lift and up on that cliff in these buzzers, and we're so careful about these because like if we want we don't want our players to be able to fly. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But I think open world. He says it's not open world though. We're not really sure what it is. I just think it's going to be just a one giant open space, and then there's access points on the perimeter to the individual zones it wants to go to. So I think Randy just says stuff and he creates a conversation like we are today. I'm not going to look too hard into it. I just want pod racing. I just want to be able to drive my pod racer into Sanctuary, into my personal garage, where I can customize it. Maybe
That would be
a little
dope.
more freedom with my pod racer, where I can go.
I think when Randy says
I would
open
love
world, I really do think that this is going to be a very Skyrim style-esque open world where the only like load times is like when you go into somebody's house in Skyrim, there's a load time. I really think that we're going to be seeing. I'm not sure how much of this has impacted the decision to go to Unreal Engine 5, but maybe that made it easier to make one giant map that maybe doesn't take 3 years to load in. Because right now your load times depend on how big the map is and how many assets you have to load in. So if it's one giant map and they still have save quit farming, that doesn't make sense. That's not going to work. So something's going to have to go. It can't be one giant map and still save quit farming, but I think it's going to be one big map, and all your points of interest are going to be in that map, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of dead space. Like a lot of open worlds, I think the stigma he's talking about is the open world where there's dead space, not much happening. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see an open world with a lot going on.
So you think it's going to be?
They didn't showcase it in the trailer. Oof, I wish they did.
I mean, I have a picture pulled up. I mean, on this part of the trailer, this looks. It all looks
there
like
are kind of a lot of tight angles. Some of them, and the widest angles we get are specific things.
Yeah, maybe
like
all right.
There's that one shot with 3 of the Vault Hunters walking up towards something. There's
like the
there's
picture
a couple
of
of shots
when
with them like
when he's holding the supposedly Maui Wan weapon. I mean the Hyperion weapon. We're just on a road. It makes me feel like you're just walking in the dust or something. Just there's no reason why we're here. Like we should be on a vehicle here.
maybe that's a tighter area. I mean, maybe there's areas that are locked to non-vehicle, and there are vehicle areas and there are non-vehicle.
Something real quick, I think I'm noticing now in this picture with this weapon on this road. If you look at the platform to the left, it looks like there's a grapple hook target point on the little platform to the left.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So people have been wondering where you're going to be able to grapple. It looks like that's a grapple target point right there. And if you go further on to the very end of the trailer, after it says break free, it looks like that target point. It might be the same one. No, it's a different map maybe.
You see that barrel right there. Yeah, you're right. It's a little different when they pan to the side there, but I see what you mean.
All right, let's go to. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say the pod racing, maybe different theme.
So
are all different drivers, different courses, different racetracks, depending on the theme or where you are. I think it's kind of cool.
Speaking of pod racers, what are your thoughts about Catch a Ride being confirmed from quote almost anywhere?
I mean, I think it was a natural progression, and I think it's a good thing. And I don't think it necessarily breaks. I don't think it breaks immersion because you have this like obvious technology within the Borderlands universe where you can kind of manifest anything in your hand. I mean, like otherwise, how would TDR guns exist, right? Like, so why are we not able to do that? And also, let's be honest, like we lost Scooter, R.I.P. Catch a Ride. But like we have to have
I can't believe it.
Of that.
Steve, what do you think?
As long as there's still a pimento taco in the glove box.
That's what it is. A pimento taco in the glove box.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with just click a button, vehicle's there, because God forbid you're out in the world like we know, and your vehicle is destroyed, and now you gotta huff it for 3 minutes, 4 minutes to set direction. Maybe if your vehicle is destroyed, it's a cooldown. Like, hey, you got 3 minutes before you can pull it back up, kind of thing. I'm totally okay with it. I actually like it a lot. Maybe put a bank on it. Just an extra slots for things. I don't know.
That would basically just be a mobile bank then.
Something. I think it's kind of cool. I think if once you fill it up, and then you bring it back to your garage, and it empties it automatically for you.
In Sea of Thieves, the rowboats that you can attach to your ship have small little storage things on it that you can throw a whole bunch of stuff into. It's kind of similar. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Let's do number 7 for everyone. Is there a certain play style you're looking to play with on your first character? And do any of the Vault Hunters seem like they'd be a good match? Steve, we'll start with you since you've mentioned this before.
I'm going to be definitely, because I've always gone gunplay, just make the guns as best as they can and build around that. I think I'm going to go towards. I'm probably going to go more action skill, splash damage base, maybe even rocket launcher. I'd stay away from maybe the bullet aspect of the game and more towards the action skill. And I more action skill. I want to toy lean into that and try to get rocket launchers to work for me for the first time. I never really invested in them, and I'm going to try to do that. So whatever character that shows in their skill trees the most rocket launcher improvements, and action skill improvements, I'm going to be going to that character.
So, what do you think?
I don't know yet. I feel like playing Zane. Zane was one of the most fun Vault Hunters to play as for me. In Borderlands 2, I played a lot of Axton, and I really loved playing as Axton, and I think that he gets a really bad rap, personally. I think that once they introduce all the OP levels and stuff like that, yeah, like the scaling of the turret doesn't work so well, but if it did, he would still be amazing. And so I'd love to see, like, I have a tendency to lean towards the gadgety character. So maybe that's where I'm going to go at first, but I still don't know who that is. Like, there's not a lot of read on the personality of each character and like how they would play realistically. And like, we kind of think that that one scene that we saw at the end of the trailer is the big guy and his thing, but I mean, like, it could depend on a lot of things. Like, maybe those grapple points that we see, like, maybe every character's grapple is a little different, so it changes their movability and their like versatility in combat situations and what they're capable of doing in terms of getting higher or changing the way they play. I want to see really good characters that I want to play all of. But I guess I lean towards more of the gadgety characters, so I'm probably going to go with that. Most of the time, that's kind of what I go with. I mean, I played Roland, Wilhelm, Axton, and Zane, so they all kind of have that same kind of play style, if you will, with like summoning some kind of machine to come help you.
Yeah, for me, I played Mose in BL3, and I originally played Krieg in BL2, and those are characters that got. And I played Nisha in the pre-sequel. Those are all characters that got no movement speed. Like, yeah, we can output tons of damage, / be tanky, but like, we're slow. And playing Axton in BL2 now, in my collected all playthrough, has shown me the value of just being fast all the time is something that I want to do. So when I get my hands on these skill trees, I want a character that's fast-based, even faster on kill, just fast all the time. And I'm looking at the hunter in the far left, the hunter class, and I'm thinking he might be the fastest class, and I'm totally down to swing some swords and just be a bullet in combat and out of combat.
I mean, that also leads us to something that I was thinking, is that maybe there's some kind of melee viability to each of the characters, and that's why we saw 2 characters kind of using melee. Maybe there's a melee augment to every single one of the Vault Hunters' action skills. And if that's possible, that changes build diversity, changes play style, and it kind of changes every character, but also doesn't lock them into one style of doing things. Because getting locked into one style of doing things in a lot of ways kind of kills a lot of characters at endgame, unfortunately. At least historically, how we've seen it, right? Like,
right. Okay, so
things just don't make sense at a certain level.
I agree. All right, so if you all, the YouTube audience, if you want to have us answer your question either on this live or on the next live, leave a comment in the comment section of the YouTube at YouTube channel MikeyDubs, or go to twitch.tv/MikeyDummington. We are currently live. And yeah, leave a comment there for the next Border Pros for us to go over if you have something that you guys want us to talk about. Okay, so we're going to start off with we have 3 fun little segments to do here. And we'll start off with one that puts us all on the same team. Tall, Steve and I, in the last episode, both put weapons into what we're calling the Borderguns Hall of Fame. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you put the Sandhawk in.
Sandhawk from Borderlands 2.
You put the Sandhawk from Borderlands 2 in, and I chose the Grognozzle from Borderlands 2 to put into the Borderguns Hall of Fame. Tall, if you were to put a weapon into the Borderguns Hall of Fame, what would you choose and why?
Oh, so there's a few ways I can go with this, right? Like maybe I pick a Borderlands 1 weapon. Maybe I pick one of the few weapons that's been in every single Borderlands install, or maybe I pick one that's like really my favorite. I'm gonna have to go. I feel like for some people this might be an honorable mention, but like for me, this is one of my main guns that I've used a lot playing Borderlands 2. I am a big double penetrating unkempt Herald guy. Got to be the double penetrating prefix, and I think for me, and I hope for a lot of other Borderlands players, it's in the Hall of Fame.
That's a great
I
pick.
think it's one of those. I think with every player, I mean, with every character you pick, the Herald is good, and then it's also one of those guns that if you get one in a story drop or you get one in an early drop, it's good for like 20 levels. Like you're still using it, you'll find yourself still using it at level 25 when you have a level 2. And you're like, how is this still working? And then you'll get the V shield and be like, oh, well, it's working again. Look at that.
I think double penetrating unkempt Herald's a great pick. I farmed one on my Axton playthrough, actually, because I'm farming one copy of each weapon. And I farmed the Herald and I got double penetrating and I was using it 15 levels later on Wilhelm. Like, yeah, absolutely. It's just so insanely powerful. I think it's a great pick for the Borderguns Hall of Fame. I think it's an inevitable pick. Someone was eventually going to put it in. I'm glad that someone did. All right, Steve, pressure's on now because the Hall of Fame can't just be 3 weapons. Okay, you have to
for sure. Yep.
You have to give us a gun for the Borderguns Hall of Fame.
Okay. I'm starting to, now we're in the segment of the show and we're at to really kind of sell our case and why you should buy what we're selling. And I keep going back to the theme impactful, right? And I cannot think of any other weapon that might be as impactful as this one is when you're playing the game of Borderlands 3 and you've been shooting guns really fast, a lot of bullets, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, you get this nice, shiny, wooden handle and you pull that trigger and a loud electrical guitar strum is just penetrating your ears while you're destroying your enemy, and that is no other than the Jacobs shotgun Hellwalker. It totally elevates your game when it comes to shotguns. I really don't play a lot of shotguns, but once I got this weapon, just the experience of it in my hand, you pump it, boom, the guitar sound, and your enemy just explodes in front of you, is a impactful, game-changing weapon in my eyes. And especially in Borderlands 3, it's in contention of being one of the best weapons in the game. So that's my pick, the Hellwalker by Jacobs.
That's a great pick.
Yeah, Tal, what do you think about going Hellwalker?
It was in terms of Borderlands 3 weapons, it's got to be one. It's in general, and there's a lot of great weapons in Borderlands 3, and that's easily in the top 5, if not top 3. And so it's great, and I like Steve was saying, it's incredibly impactful. It's incredibly impactful. Especially if you haven't been playing, you happen to get a world drop one or happen to farm Road Dog for it, like.
We don't really get a lot of pump action weapons.
No, and you don't get a lot of like what feels like a shotgun you could buy at a gun store. in real life. Not something that looks like, you know, I mean, I've walked into Home Depot before and seen drills that look more like Borderlands guns than real guns. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, yeah, to have something that looks like the real world and almost otherworldly in Borderlands, I think.
And to have a manufacturer sponsor this that we most likely all deem as the good guys, and it just kicks butt. I think it's also and to have the element of a guitar strumming, electric guitar, it's just fun. It's not annoying either, and they keep changing the tone a little bit, so it's almost like you're playing a song. I like it a lot.
Mhm.
Michael, what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think the
What's
Hellwalker's a
your,
great
Hall of Fame?
pick. I think it's a great pick because it's so good in so many Vault Hunters. Like, I was started a flak and I got the Hellwalker and I was like, I don't know how good it's going to be. Oh my gosh. So good. So good. Especially if you're critting on all your hits because you're playing flak and you get all the ricochets and it's just like, wait, it actually is as good as people say. Yeah, I really like the Hellwalker. Okay, it's definitely a worthwhile entry into the Borderlands Hall of Fame, but I am actually going to go with a non-unique.
Yeah.
And I was between two non-uniques, and one of them was a Vladov and one of them was a Jacobs. And I'm deciding, actually, I'm also going to go the Jacobs shotgun route, and I'm going to go with the quad non-unique shotgun.
Okay.
The quad is a Jacob shotgun that consumes 4 ammo. The Jacob shotguns can consume either 1, 2, 3, or 4 ammo. And the more ammo consumes, the more base damage it has. And the quad is the biggest, the baddest. The quad is just... It's a one-tapper. You aim at somebody's head, you get right in their face, pow. You hit them, and they're just deleted. If you go up against a boss that you can crit with all the pellets, the quad is a boss shredder at the same time. And most quads, when you shoot them, you have to reload them right away. But if you can somehow manage to get a little bit more magazine size to get a 5-round magazine instead of a 4, that's enough to get a second full shot of the quad off. So instead of going boom, reload, you can go boom, boom, reload. And that second shot just takes it to a whole nother level. So I think the quad, and you can farm it in vendors. It can be a blue. It can be I think blue and purple. I think it's the only time you can get quads. I don't think there's such thing as green quads. I'm not entirely sure. But like,
I don't know.
It's just something that can just be there and you grab it and you're like, this is better than everything I'm using. It's on level. It's a quad. It's going to go insane. So I think the quad is definitely a worthwhile entry into the Borderguns Hall of Fame.
The developer who created the quad is right now is just fist pumping in the air right now, like finally get some appreciation out here.
I mean, I love a non-unique gun making the Borderguns Hall of Fame. That's what does it for me. Because like I was saying before in my wants, like I love when guns can operate and be part of endgame builds that are not legendaries, and I want to see more of that. So this just kind of this strengthens that opinion. You know what I mean?
Right, especially when it's so powerful. I was considering. I don't want to spoil too much because it might go. I was considering the Droog, the sniper rifle, but the Droog runs out of ammo so quickly that I felt like you get to use it for a little bit, but then you have to kind of put it back in your backpack. Yeah.
I have a non-legendary one that I really like also.
All right, what is it?
It's a Borderlands 1 call out. The double anarchies from Borderlands 1 were so good.
How'd they work?
There was a SMG. I don't remember. I remember having one in Borderlands 1 and being like, this is my best. And being able to use it for like 7, 8 levels afterwards. They were SMGs. It was basically just referred. It would have 2 anarchies in the title of it, or it would say double anarchy. Yeah, and they just high fire rate, high damage, and you knew you were ripping when you had one. If you were playing Lilith, that I think got some SMG bonuses also in her skill trees. My knowledge on Borderlands 1 is not something that I can call off the top of my head always, but I remember getting them and loving them. And a lot of other guys will talk about them also and how good they were in terms of just like how they would roll, how you would get them, how they change your play style because you had this SMG that could just shred anything.
I think it's very, very cool. Okay, so we're going to, in the interest of time, because I know we're all busy, we're going to skip fun segment number 2, and we're going to go right to fun segment number 3. It's time to put your hard hats on. This might get messy. It's time for a manufacturer battle. Both Steve and Tal have come prepared with a Borderlands manufacturer that they believe is the best. We are going to let them duke it out with opening arguments, a cross-examination, and in closing points. Steve, you're up first.
Okay. I'm really glad I get to go first because I had zero backup plan because there's only one option here. And I thought to myself,
Hold on, your audio has changed. Your audio has changed. You're a little bit quieter.
Okay.
You're back.
Is it just, I'm back. Okay, perfect. So you said, what's the best manufacturer? There's no second option, third option. There's only one option. I have no backup plan. This is it. Okay. I thought, what's the best manufacturer? What's the most impactful manufacturer in the history of Borderlands? And it could be no other than the Hyperion manufacturer. And I'm going to explain to you why.
Wow.
Hyperion. First of all, to even be in this conversation, you need to be in every title. They are in Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel, Borderlands 3. Okay? They are a staple of this game. Some may believe without Hyperion, we wouldn't have Elpis. The Elpis scenario and Borderlands 4, they were the ones driving this game. I believe Hyperion is at an elite level, not just because they offer elite guns, but they provide so much more to the world of Borderlands. Let me explain to you why. They're the creators and developers of the new U station, creator and developer of Claptrap, the creators of and funded the Catch a Ride stations. So I'm not too happy that we might be going away from the Catch a Ride stations in Borderlands 4. That's a lot of lack of funding right there. They do so much more than provide guns, but let me just explain to you guys the impact in the gun community. Borderlands 1, the Reaper, that got melee characters to fall in love with them, plus 300% melee damage and lifesteal. The Butcher made his first appearance in Borderlands 1, and also the Beesh, which made its appearance in all titles. It wasn't until Borderlands 2 where I think the weaponry really took off, because they were not afraid to innovate and get creative. Logan's gun was you're gonna hear this often, must-have. Logan's gun was a must-have for launcher users. Okay, the Invader's sniper with its ADS burst fire gave it 700% fire rate, paired with its patented accuracy with 96%. This was a must-have sniper in your inventory. Longbow sniper rifle BL2. Minecraft arrow projectiles. I mean, come on. Talk about willingness to innovate and get creative. That being said, they took a huge step forward in Borderlands 3. I think they took the funding from all the times we've died for the new U stations, all the times we've had to catch a ride and what have yous, and they put all that funding into Borderlands 3 weaponry, starting off with the face puncher. Again, a must-have if you're a melee character. Redistributor, arguably top SMG in the game, gives the plasma coil a run for its money with all the amp damage capabilities. The conversions, any element. It's a must-have for crit flax, ricochet amaras. I mean, the ability to be able to send all those needles and be able to crit, devastating. That gives the Hellwalker something to look at. But Hyperion, it doesn't stop there. They're more than just weaponry. They're more than providing you transportation and another chance to beat the game. The new U station. Oh, no. They kept going. They provided grenades. Did you know that? It started with Borderlands 1. They've been here all along. Would they trademark and patent the longbow? The creators of the longbow, introducing teleportation functions to the enemy. After Borderlands 1, they sold that patent to all buyers. Everyone started using the longbow, every manufacturer, because they realized how valuable it really was. They took that funding and went to Borderlands 2 and created the nasty surprise and the Quista that Michael you love to use. It is a must-have weapon damage-wise for shock. Borderlands 3. They say, you know what? We know what we're doing. We have the money to do it. Let's take this grenade arms race and take it to the next level. So what did the Hyperion offer you? Stormfront, Firestorm, EMP, Transfusion, which was shared with Atlas and TDR, but they take it to the next level. They're not just trying to provide you guys a gun experience. They're trying to offer you a Borderlands experience. And I can continue because they didn't stop there with the guns and grenades. They offered you shields. Yes, that's right. They did not stop. They want you to have the full Hyperion experience, the ultimate experience, the best experience. Borderlands 1, they only had one entry. The endothermic resistance shield. Able to resist certain kind of damages was unheard of at the time. They provided to you. Since that was their only entry, they had room to improve, room to get creative. Because in Borderlands 3, they were confident. In Borderlands 2, they were confident in their shield making department. Because Michael and Tal, what did they offer for all users to use in Borderlands 2? They offered the one and the only, the B.
The B shield.
They gave the B to the players because they knew this is what they want. The players want damage. We gave them resistance. They loved our product. We're going to give them damage instead, second go around. They gave them the B. It was a huge hit. Not only were they amazing with guns, because in Borderlands 2, I'm sorry, I totally skipped Borderlands 2 weaponries. They did not. Am I wrong to say they maybe produced one of the greatest weapons of all time?
Exactly.
The conference call.
Yeah.
The conference call. They went crazy in Borderlands 2, and they knew that. So in Borderlands 3, they had so much funding. We're like, know what? Let's continue that confidence and give them the best shield experience. And what did Hyperion offer you? They delivered.
There's no way.
On their promises. They offered the stopgap, the Oh God, the transformer, the gas mask, the front loader. Oh, do I need to say the Revolter? Everyone,
I didn't even know this.
Revolter.
This is crazy.
Came out of Hyperion. They do not stop winning. I'm sorry. Did they run out of ideas? I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you guys. They're in the Oz kit market for pre-sequel. They created the Relay, the 3001.E, the Freedom, and the original first Springs Oz that you introduced into the game, built by Hyperion, because I know their product works. Guys, Hyperion isn't just a gun manufacturer. It's a business and a manufacturer run on excellence. Not only do they provide you the best gear, but they want you to have the best success. They decided to reallocate all their funding in Borderlands 3 because they got rid of pistols and focused solely on shotguns, SMGs, and snipers. They said, no, what? Our whole gimmick with the reverse recoil, that's not a big deal. We're just going to offer you guys a one-of-a-kind, one-of-one front shield capabilities. Guys, do you understand how innovative that front shield capability really was? They came up with 3 or 4 ideas. Amp, Genesis, Redirect, and regular shields. One of its kind. Only seen from one manufacturer. Talk about innovation. What about Fight for Your Life? They thought about that too. With the recoil stability with hipfire, it makes getting out of Fight for Life much easier with a Hyperion in your hand, making it another must-have. But guys, we all could talk about gear. Everyone's got gear. What does Hyperion offer you in experience when it comes to challenges? Well, I can say this. They have an opportunity for you to go somewhere, and it's in the name. They have their own map. Hyperion with the opportunity map. Well designed. Prestigious. And I mean, what do I dare say? I think it's one of the best looking maps in Borderlands history. In BL2, they offer the Hyperion Slaughter, somewhere you can go to and enjoy, maybe even use the Hyperion weaponry. Not only do they have gear and places and challenges, they also have enemies that are worth your time. Who endorses Hyperion? Saturn, the Bunker, Bonehead 2.0, Wilhelm. Hyperius the Invincible is backing Hyperion. Do I even need to say Handsome Jack? Guys, Hyperion is on another level. Their fingerprints are all over Borderlands. And I will close with this. Hyperion is so invested into this game, into this franchise, into this world. They even offer you, on top of everything I just mentioned, playable characters. Timothy Lawrence, Jack's doppelganger. Wilhelm was a playable character, all backed by Hyperion. And your one and only Claptrap. Guys, if Hyperion is the most impactful manufacturer in Borderlands, then please tell me what is.
That was the most well prepared.
That was
Amazing.
Handsome Jack couldn't have said it any better himself.
Shout outs to Licorice in the chat who said, I'm sold. Hyperion #1. If Hyperion would have been a real life company, they would have probably hired this guy to do their advertisement and marketing.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. And it also helps that my pick was also Hyperion.
Okay.
Thank you. There we go.
Because it really is the only choice. I mean, in reality, if we're looking at manufacturers like Steve said with the most impact, you also have to look at why we play these games, right? And like essentially, yeah, we vault hunt, but at the same time, who's the company A that facilitated all of that, and then really was the catalyst for both the first, second, and leading, the first and second games that got us into it. And we learned from the pre-sequel, we learned from Borderlands 2 that Borderlands 1 largely happens under the watchful eye of Hyperion, even though they don't have as a manufacturer, they do not have as much presence. And I will say this about Hyperion, though, is that we've also learned that a lot of the things that are brought to you are by Hyperion are first stolen from somebody else.
They do tactically acquire
via hardcore corporate espionage that they decide to wield however they see fit. Tactically acquire many other patents galactically. So you can't talk about Borderlands without really mentioning Hyperion, though. My personal and going into this, I thought about this question two ways, which is who's my favorite manufacturer and who is the most important manufacturer. And so because I don't have necessarily an answer for who is more important than Hyperion, because it is a very tough argument to make, I would say Jacobs is probably not a close second. It's a very distant second.
Yes,
But Jacobs also largely influences the Borderlands universe in a lot of ways. My personal favorite manufacturer was S&S Munitions. And one of the coolest things is that they made it in game is that S&S Munitions went from being a weapons manufacturer to actually they're the reasons that loot has a loot beam. So loot beams are actually in canon for Borderlands. And I loved it because I had an S&S Munitions shotgun in Borderlands 1 that was maybe the best gun I used the entire time I played it. And it was through my original Roland playthrough. I managed to pick it up, I don't know, at around level 20 or something like that. And it was good all the way through whatever end game I played, all the DLCs. It would just one-shot everything because I had maxed out my shotgun proficiency. Similarly to the quad, it would shoot 2 shots at once. But because I maxed out my weapon proficiency, I turned a two shotgun shell mag into a 4 shotgun shell mag, so I was able to get off 2 shots, and it was just unstoppable. It was just unstoppable, and I had so much fun with it. And I was really looking forward to being able to have that idea and have a shotgun like that jump into Borderlands 2, but I was never able to. But that being said, it doesn't come anywhere.
I mean, yeah, I think we don't have to go through the cross-examination. I think the Hyperion's a great pick. The one thing I will say about Hyperion is I was looking at some top weapons, just overall in BL2, BL3, the best weapons. Hyperion doesn't have a lot of entries. When it comes to like the top of the line weapons, the ones that are the best, there's not a lot of Hyperion entries. The conference call in BL2 definitely is up there, but in BL3, it's really only the face puncher. Every other manufacturer's got lots of entries at the most powerful weapons.
I would say the redistributor is imperative if you're gonna play Zane. Like it kind of got overshadowed by the light show, but I would say the redistributor. Like as somebody that mains Zane for Borderlands 3, like I had a redistributor in every element. I farmed for a god roll with anointments before the re-roller machine was in there. Like I probably spent most of my time playing Zane to farm Wotan for a redistributor.
Mm-hmm. Now the Hyperion is second only to Jacobs to create the most legendary and notable unique weapons in Borderlands franchise with 95. Jacobs with 111. So they're pumping out the weaponry. Now they actually had second most legendaries in Borderlands 1 with 12, just to 13, but they stayed consistent throughout all the games. 12 in Borderlands 1, 28. They went from 12 to 28, the biggest delta jump from game to game. So they continue to keep pumping out the weapons at an accelerated rate. Hey, a fun fact about Hyperion, guys. I'm not sure this is just a trivia thing. Hyperion is actually the name of it's a child of one of the Titans of Greek mythology. Hyperion fathered another god named Helios. And that's the name of the moon station in Borderlands.
Really?
Oh, look at that. Well, that also makes sense if you have the Hyperion robots Saturn and Uranus, which are also Saturn is the Roman way you would say Zeus, and Uranus I think is the Roman way you would say Neptune.
Yeah, because Zeus is Jupiter.
Poseidon. Zeus is Jupiter, and Uranus
I think Neptune is Poseidon.
Neptune is Poseidon. Yeah, sorry. Did I forget which one?
I don't know what Saturn is.
Hyperion has kind of had their claws into the lore of Borderlands for a long time. I can say that because the vice president of Hyperion, Mr. Blake, was tasked to find the fourth Vault Hunter to assist Jack in the pre-sequel. So what they did was they had a tournament in Overlook that Claptrap accidentally destroyed everything. The only contender, Donk. So Mr. Blake submitted Claptrap as Frank
that is funny
to assist in the mercenary thing. So Jack actually strangled the Hyperion president and CEO, Mr. Harold Tasker, to acquire the position. And he ripped off his goatee and is actually on his trophy shelf that you can mention and see in Tales of Borderlands Episode 6.
Wow. That's a deep cut.
That's a very deep cut.
People might say,
people
might say though, once Athena became CEO of Hyperion, which is pre-Borderlands 3, correct me if I'm wrong, Athena, she was a shield user, and she implemented that shield aspect to the front-facing shields to all Hyperion weapons in Borderlands 3.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. All right, that's all I got.
All right, great job, everyone, with the manufacturer stuff. The next thing we're going to do is do a shout-out Tall, and I'm also going to put up Tall, when he joined our call, he sent us some pictures of a vest that he has made over time. I want to show 2 pictures of that right now. So this is a vest that he designed, or that he put some badges on. As you can see, there's a Catch a Ride logo on there.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, lots
Yeah,
of.
I went to Etsy and a lot of different other places to find stuff for it. It's been an ongoing work in progress, and that's another reason why I'm like hoping for more hype for Borderlands 4 to come out, so other people start to make more stuff akin to this um, in lieu of it coming out. I'd love to see more Borderlands 3 kind of patches and stuff like that. I almost had Zane's jacket made. A buddy of mine does custom clothes and stuff like that, and I was working with him on having like something that you could wear every day version of Zane's jacket that I could wear then as a filthy Zane main. But I have this. I have a couple other things that I do like in terms of that kind of stuff. I have made other vests before for different things. I do one for when I travel. I have one for the soccer team that I'm a fan of, and it was kind of a natural progression because I saw that there were so many patches available for Borderlands that I was like, oh. And then I had to throw the Catch a Ride on there. I had to have that custom made.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I think that's one of the phrases uttered the most in Borderlands history.
Catch a Ride?
I love the back. It's like the galaxy of all the vaults that we see at the end of Borderlands 2. I think it's a really cool touch.
And that's what I based it off of. I have like more celestial kind of stuff that I want to put in there, but I don't really think I want to put any planets in there. I'd much rather just kind of leave it the way it is.
Just ping the vault.
And just ping the vaults. Just ping the vaults. And this is something that like was kind of interesting to me about Borderlands 4 also is we don't have any confirmation that we're not gonna leave Kairos, right? Like we might just be on Kairos full time, and like, is it gonna have that many biomes that we're gonna be able to like really enjoy?
Mm-hmm.
Pandora did.
They say the most diverse, and we might be able to go back up to Elpis, but we'll see.
All right.
I feel like we're definitely gonna go to.
I don't think we're traveling off of Kairos very often. Maybe to Elpis, but I think we're going to be on Kairos the whole time. But that is going to be the end of the BorderBros Podcast episode 2. Thank you very much to Tal for joining us. Tal, you said you have a PSN you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm erected _sned on PlayStation. I'll probably be playing more and more Borderlands 3 and in the lead up to in the lead up to the release of Borderlands 4. I'm trying to get hyped. I'm trying to get other people hyped. I'm trying to hang out with other people that love Borderlands and talk about it. There's infinite theories, but it's kind of annoying to just share them by yourself. Yeah. So erected _sned. Don't ask me why. It's been like that for years. I'm not changing.
All right.
That's awesome. Hey, awesome. Tal, thank you so much for being on here. You've been a great guest. I know me and my brother both appreciate you being here.
Hey man, I appreciate you guys having me. I didn't even know if you responded to me, and then I hopped on your live one day and you were like, oh, I emailed you back. I was like, cool, let's do it. And I'm in a unique position where I'm home all the time right now, so it works out.
I'm really happy it worked out. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. Subscribe to see more podcasts like this one. If you want to catch it live, we are live here on twitch.tv/MikeyDubbington and on YouTube, MikeyDubs. We will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.